Wisdom, wisdom, that's the test. Which rival wisdom team is best? Quote definitions and synergies defined by Claude AI, coordinated by Grandpa Lou Valliere. Take care and enjoy.
Team 31 Endure with Purpose. Quote definitions, biographical context and synergy analysis to replace hate with motivationaleducation.com to guidealife.com. Quote 31.1. The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. Niccolò Machiavelli 1469 to 1527. Quote definition. Wisdom and foolishness travel the same road to the same destination. But wisdom takes the direct path immediately while foolishness takes the long way around through every available delay, evasion, and excuse, arriving eventually at what wisdom could have done from the start. The difference is not in the destination, but in the cost of the journey. Quote application. Team 31 opens with the urgency principle. The work of enduring with purpose cannot be endlessly deferred. The wise person who sees hatred operating in a community sees an opportunity to extend genuine wisdom, sees the moment for honest engagement, acts immediately. The fool sees the same things and eventually arrives at the same action, after the cost of delay has been fully paid. Niccolò Machiavelli was born in 1469 in Florence, served as a senior official in the Florentine Republic for 14 years, was arrested and briefly tortured when the Medici returned to power in 1512, and spent his enforced retirement writing the works that made him one of the most influential and most misunderstood political thinkers in Western history. The Prince, his short, brutal manual of political realism, has been called the first work of modern political science, and has been blamed for everything from Renaissance cynicism to 20th century totalitarianism, largely by people who read only its most startling passages without the context of the larger discourses on Livy, which reveal a genuine Republican and a consistent advocate for popular government. His observation about the wise man's immediacy versus the fool's eventual arrival reflects his lifelong study of effective political action. He had watched leaders delay necessary decisions until the delay itself became catastrophic, and he had drawn the obvious conclusion. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Act immediately on what you recognize as necessary and right rather than deferring to a more convenient future that tends not to arrive. 2. Recognize that the fool is not unintelligent but merely slow. They will eventually do what wisdom does immediately, but at far greater cost. 3. Apply Machiavelli's urgency to the mission. Every recognition that wisdom is needed, that kindness is possible, that hatred is operating. Act on it now, because the fool's eventually is too expensive.
Quote 31.2. The greater the effort, the greater the glory. Pierre Corneille 1606 to 1684. Quote definition. The measure of any achievement's glory is directly proportional to the difficulty of the effort required to produce it. Easy achievements produce modest satisfaction. The achievements wrested from genuine, sustained, costly effort produce the most enduring and most meaningful sense of accomplishment. Difficulty is not the enemy of glory, but its source and measure. Quote application. The work of replacing hate with wisdom is one of the most effortful undertakings available. It faces deeply entrenched resistance, requires sustained commitment over long periods, and often produces invisible results. Corneille's principle reframes that effort. The very difficulty that makes the work hard is the measure of how glorious the eventual achievement will be. Greater effort, greater glory, and the mission qualifies for the greatest. Pierre Corneille was born in 1606 in Rouen, Normandy, and became the founding figure of French classical tragedy. His Lucide, 1637, launched the tradition that Racine would later perfect and that established the classical rules of French dramatic form for over a century. He appears in Team 22 as well, where his observation about recounting woes, soothing them anchored that team's expression layer. His observation about effort and glory reflects both his dramatic philosophy, in which the greatest heroes were those who chose the hardest path in service of the highest honor, and his personal experience as a playwright who had spent decades producing work of the highest technical ambition in a form whose rules were genuinely demanding. He had earned his glory through exactly the sustained, effortful engagement with difficult material that his principle describes. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Reframe the difficulty of genuinely important work as the measure of its significance rather than as evidence that it was wrong to attempt. 2. Find motivation in the correlation between effort and glory. The harder the work, the more the achievement will mean when it is finally accomplished. 3. Apply Corneille's proportion to the mission. The effort required to replace hatred with wisdom in an era of deep division is enormous, which means the glory of achieving it, in any community, with any person, is correspondingly great.
Quote 30, 1.3, one loyal friend is worth 10,000 relatives. Euripides 480 to 406 BC. Definition: loyalty, the chosen, sustained, unconditional commitment of one person to another, is so rare and so valuable that a single instance of it outweighs the vast network of obligatory family connections that accident of birth creates. The friend who chooses loyalty freely is worth more than the multitude who are connected by necessity rather than genuine commitment. Application: for the mission and for everyone it serves, Euripides' arithmetic makes the case for genuine community over mere association. The one person genuinely committed to the work of wisdom and kindness, who shows up, who persists through difficulty, who is loyal to the mission and to the people it serves, is worth 10,000 passive supporters. The mission values depth over breadth, loyalty over membership, genuine commitment over comfortable association. Euripides appears in teams 18, 20, 25, 26, and 30. His range of psychological and social observations is the broadest of any ancient author in the collection. Here his sharpest observation about the relative value of chosen loyalty versus obligatory relationship makes the case that the quality of human connection matters incomparably more than its quantity or its social compulsion. He had dramatized this theme repeatedly across his career. Orestes' true friend Pylades versus his treacherous relatives, Medea abandoned by Jason after years of total loyalty, and his direct formulation of the principle is the theoretical summary of a career spent demonstrating it dramatically. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Value and invest in the rare genuine loyalty, in friendship, in alliance, in community, that is freely chosen over the vast network of obligatory connections that produce association without commitment. 2. Be the loyal friend rather than merely the connected relative, choosing genuine commitment rather than resting on the obligation of proximity or history. 3. Apply Euripides' arithmetic to the mission. One person genuinely committed to making their community wiser and kinder is worth 10,000 passive well-wishers, and the mission seeks and honors that rare genuine loyalty.
Quote 31.4, come what may, all bad fortune is to be conquered by endurance. Virgil 70 to 19 BC. Definition: whatever adverse circumstances arrive, whatever setbacks, losses, failures, or sustained difficulties, the reliable path to conquering them is endurance. The patient, sustained refusal to give up in the face of what cannot be immediately overcome. Bad fortune is not conquered by superior force or clever strategy alone but by the simple, powerful act of outlasting it. Application: the work of replacing hate with wisdom produces bad fortune reliably. Resistance, slow progress, setbacks, the occasional failure. Virgil's principle is the operating standard for all of it. Come what may, endure. The mission that endures through its bad fortune outlasts the opposition that was counting on the mission giving up, and the conquest of bad fortune through endurance is available to anyone willing to practice it. Publius Virgilius Maro, Virgil, was born in 70 BC near Mantua in northern Italy, educated in Cremona, Milan, and Rome, and became the greatest Latin poet. His Aeneid, Eclogues, and Georgics set the standard of Latin verse for 2,000 years of Western literary education. The Aeneid, his epic of Aeneas's journey from the ruins of Troy to the founding of Rome, is organized around exactly the theme of his observation. The entire poem is a study of endurance conquering bad fortune, as Aeneas repeatedly faces catastrophic setbacks, divine opposition, human betrayal, and personal grief, and repeatedly endures through them toward the destiny that his endurance eventually makes possible. Virgil himself died before he could finish revising the Aeneid, requesting that it be burned, a request his literary executors wisely ignored. His poem on endurance has itself endured for 2,000 years. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Treat endurance, the patient refusal to give up, as the primary instrument available for conquering bad fortune that cannot be immediately overcome by force or cleverness. 2. Distinguish between the bad fortune that can be addressed directly and the bad fortune that can only be outlasted, and apply endurance to the latter without shame. 3. Apply Virgil's come what may standard to the mission. Whatever bad fortune arrives, whatever resistance, setback, or discouragement, endure, because endurance is the conquest that time and persistence make possible.
Quote 31.5, Life is the farce which everyone has to perform. Arthur Rimbaud, 1854–1891. Definition: Life viewed honestly has the character of farce. Absurd, unpredictable, full of situations that would be comic if they weren't so consequential, and requiring everyone to perform a role that is partly scripted by circumstance and partly improvised by character. The observation is not nihilistic but honest. Acknowledging the farcical dimension of existence is the beginning of the self-aware engagement with it that genuine living requires. Application: The work of replacing hate with wisdom is conducted in the middle of exactly the farce Rimbaud describes. A world that persistently produces absurd, contradictory, and often darkly comic situations that must be navigated with both seriousness and the self-aware humor that the farce demands. The church of snarky dimension of the mission is precisely the right response to farce. Engage genuinely, perform with full commitment, and acknowledge the comedy without letting it become an excuse for cynicism. Arthur Rimbaud appears in Team 29 as well, where his principle about genius as recovered childhood anchored the perception layer of that team. Here his most characteristically provocative observation, delivered at an age when most people haven't yet decided what life is, takes the stage. Born in 1854 in Charleville, Rimbaud wrote this in Une saison en enfer, a season in hell, at 19, already burning through the end of his poetic career. The farce observation reflects his characteristic combination of genuine philosophical seriousness and deliberate irreverence. He was not dismissing life but naming its quality with the honesty that the Romantic tradition's earnestness tended to suppress. Everyone performs. The question is whether the performance is self-aware or not. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Engage with life's farcical dimension honestly and with self-aware humor rather than with either earnest denial or cynical contempt. The farce is real, and acknowledging it is the beginning of wise navigation. 2. Perform your required role with genuine commitment rather than half-hearted going through the motions. The farce demands a full performance even when its farcical nature is acknowledged. 3. Apply Rimbaud's honest realism to the mission. The Church of Snarky Voice is exactly the right response to life as farce. Engaged, committed, and equipped with the self-aware humor that the situation genuinely requires.
Quote 31.6, Nothing that is morally wrong can be politically right. William E. Gladstone, 1809–1898. Definition: Political expediency. The calculation of what is advantageous, popular, or achievable in a given political moment cannot transform a moral wrong into a political right. The two categories are not separate domains that occasionally conflict. Genuine political right is bounded by and ultimately derived from moral right, and no amount of political cleverness can make what is morally wrong into what is politically legitimate. Application: This principle is the standing challenge to every political justification for hatred, exclusion, and the denial of human dignity. The political arguments for policies of cruelty, that they are popular, expedient, economically beneficial, or traditionally accepted, do not survive Gladstone's test. If they are morally wrong, they are not politically right regardless of their political utility. The mission never accepts political expedience as a justification for moral wrong. William Ewart Gladstone appears in Team 12 as well, where his principle that justice delayed is justice denied anchored the urgency layer of that framework. Here his most foundational moral political claim takes the stage. Born in 1809 in Liverpool and educated at Eton and Christ Church, Oxford, Gladstone served 4 times as Prime Minister and underwent one of the most dramatic political evolutions in British parliamentary history, from defender of his family's slave-owning interests to passionate advocate for Irish Home Rule, from high church conservative to the dominant figure of Victorian liberal politics. His observation that nothing morally wrong can be politically right was not abstract philosophy, but the hard-won conclusion of a political career spent watching the consequences of politically expedient moral compromises, each of which had made the eventual reckoning more expensive. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Apply the moral test to every political claim, policy, and expedient arrangement, asking not, is this politically useful? But is this morally right? And understanding that the first cannot substitute for the second. 2. Resist the political framing that treats moral and political considerations as separate domains that must be balanced. Gladstone's principle collapses that separation. 3. Apply this standard to the mission. Never accept the political argument that hatred is expedient, popular, or traditionally sanctioned as sufficient justification for tolerating it. Nothing morally wrong becomes politically right regardless of its political utility.
Quote 31.7. There is nothing permanent except change. Heraclitus 545 to 485 BC. Definition. The fundamental nature of reality is flux, continuous, ceaseless transformation in which no condition, no arrangement, no state of affairs is stable or permanent. What appears fixed is actually in slow or fast process of becoming something else. The only reliable constant is the constancy of change itself. Application. For the mission of replacing hate with wisdom, Heraclitus's insight is simultaneously a warning and a profound reassurance. The warning, the wisdom and kindness being built now will also change, require renewal, and face new forms of the challenges they address. The reassurance, hatred itself is not permanent. It too changes, can be transformed, is not the fixed natural state of things that its practitioners insist it is. Nothing is permanent except change, including hatred. Heraclitus of Ephesus was born around 545 BC in Ephesus on the Ionian coast, in what is now Turkey, into a distinguished family that held hereditary priestly duties which he renounced. He was famous in antiquity for his obscure, compressed, paradoxical style. He was called the Obscure and the Riddler by later ancient commentators, and his surviving fragments, preserved in the works of others, are among the most compressed and most influential in the history of Western philosophy. He taught that fire was the fundamental element of reality, and that the universe was governed by a logos, a rational principle of change, which produced the unity of opposites, day and night, hot and cold, life and death, waking and sleeping. His river's influx metaphor, you cannot step into the same river twice, is among the most famous images in Western philosophy, expressing in a single image the principle of perpetual transformation that his observation about nothing permanent except change articulates directly. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Treat change as the reliable constant rather than an unwelcome disruption, building resilience and adaptability rather than investments in the permanence of any particular arrangement. 2. Apply the permanence of change insight to opposition and hatred. Nothing that currently exists is permanent, including the hatred and division that currently seem entrenched. 3. Use Heraclitus's principle as motivation. The change the mission is working toward is as natural and as inevitable as the change Heraclitus describes, because nothing is permanent, not even what hatred has built.
Quote 31.8. Be slow to fall into friendship, but when thou art in, continue firm and constant. Socrates 470 to 399 BC. Definition. Genuine friendship requires two sequential disciplines that are rarely paired successfully: the patience of careful, unhurried selection before commitment, and the firmness of unwavering constancy after commitment. Most people invert the virtues, too quick to commit, too quick to abandon. The wisdom is in the sequence: deliberate entry, unconditional persistence. Application. The communities, partnerships, and alliances that the mission builds deserve the full application of Socrates' paired discipline. Slow into friendship, genuinely knowing who the partners, allies, and community members are before full commitment. Then firm and constant, unwavering in the maintenance of those genuine commitments through the inevitable difficulties that test every real alliance. Socrates closes Team 31 with the endurance principle applied to human relationship. Once genuinely in, continue constant. Socrates appears in Teams 17 and 24 as well, whereas principles about authentic being and wonder as wisdom's starting point anchored those frameworks. Here, closing Team 31, his most practical social principle completes the team's framework of endurance with purpose. Socrates was himself a model of both halves of his prescription. He was genuinely slow to call someone a friend. His Socratic method's relentless questioning was partly the process of genuine, knowing that true friendship requires, and once genuinely in friendship, he was legendarily constant. His friendship with Alcibiades survived that brilliant, difficult man's most spectacular failures. His relationship with his students endured the dangers of associating with a man the Athenian establishment eventually executed. He did not abandon his commitments when they became costly. He stayed firm and constant until the hemlock made that impossible. This quote specifically encourages individuals to 1. Practice the sequential discipline, deliberate, patient selection before commitment, followed by unwavering constancy after, not the inverted version that commits quickly and abandons quickly. 2. Honor the commitments already made with the firmness and constancy Socrates prescribes, because the test of genuine friendship is precisely the maintenance of it through difficulty. 3. Apply Socrates' closing principle to the mission. Build community relationships slowly and genuinely, then maintain them with the firmness and constancy that endurance with purpose requires.
How they work together as a unified philosophy to replace hate with motivational education to guidelife.com. The Endure with Purpose framework. Initiation layer. Act immediately and earn the greater glory. Quotes 1-2. A Machiavelli. Establish that purposeful endurance begins with immediate action. The wise person does at once what eventually compels the fool, removing the excuse of delay from the equation. Pierre Corneille. Provide the motivational framework for sustained effort. The greater the effort, the greater the glory, ensuring that the difficulty of what must be endured is understood as the measure of its eventual significance. Together, the launch and the motivation of enduring with purpose. Machiavelli removes the delay that converts wisdom into foolishness by making it eventual rather than immediate. Corneille ensures that the effort required to endure is understood as directly proportional to the glory it will produce, so that the difficulty is not a reason to stop but a measure of how much the achievement will mean. Loyalty layer. One loyal friend and fortune conquered by endurance. Quotes 3-4. Euripides. Establish the value of genuine loyal friendship. One loyal friend over 10,000 relatives, ensuring that purposeful endurance is sustained within the genuine community of freely chosen commitment rather than merely obligatory association. A Virgil. Provide the endurance principle itself. Come what may, all bad fortune is to be conquered by endurance, making patient sustained refusal to give up the reliable instrument of conquest over whatever adverse circumstances arrive. Together, the community and the discipline of genuine endurance. Euripides ensures that the person enduring has the one loyal friend whose genuine commitment makes endurance possible, because endurance in isolation is far harder than endurance within genuine community. Virgil provides the operating principle. Whatever comes, endure. Together they describe endurance as both a personal discipline and a communal support, sustained by loyalty, practiced as refusal to quit. Honesty layer. Life's farce acknowledged and moral standard maintained. Quotes 5-6. Rimbaud. Grant the honest self-aware acknowledgement of life's farcical dimension, the comedy and absurdity that earnest engagement tends to suppress, ensuring that purposeful endurance is grounded in honest realism rather than naive optimism. Gladstone. Maintain the moral standard that gives endurance its purpose. Nothing morally wrong can be politically right, ensuring that what is being endured through is genuinely worth enduring for because it is morally right. Together, the honesty and the moral anchor of purposeful endurance. Rimbaud ensures that the enduring person sees the world as it actually is, including its absurdity and comedy, rather than through the distorting lens of earnest idealism that breaks under reality's weight. Gladstone ensures that the moral standard directing that endurance is genuinely worth maintaining, not political expediency but genuine moral right. Endure honestly, endure for something genuinely right. Permanence layer. Change as constant and firm constant friendship. Quotes 7-8. A Heraclitus. Provide the philosophical foundation of purposeful endurance. Nothing is permanent except change, so that the bad fortune being endured through is understood as genuinely temporary, and the change being worked toward as genuinely possible. A Socrates. Close the framework with the personal discipline that endurance ultimately requires. Slow into friendship, then firm and constant, making unwavering loyalty to genuine commitments the final and defining mark of the person who endures with purpose. Together, the cosmic reassurance and the personal discipline of endurance with purpose. Heraclitus ensures that nothing, not the hatred being opposed, not the difficulties being endured, not the current arrangement of things, is permanent, which is both the reassurance that change is possible and the reminder that what is being built must be continuously renewed. Socrates closes with the personal expression of that endurance. Once genuinely committed, continue firm and constant. Nothing permanent except change, but within that change be constant to what genuinely matters.
Free easy extra advantage math, spelling and reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com or buy at educationstopshate.com. Free easy math wisdom workbooks with octo repetition to grow math self-confidence. You'll get plenty of repetitive practice of age ranges and averages of our 52 teams of 8 quote authors. Free easy alpha cipher-coded puzzles teach letters, numbers and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. Can you decode this cipher quote of encouragement using either our learning to spell or just for fun instructions? And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate and entertain generations for centuries. We offer printed versions and timed videos with background music. Sign up for free weekly emails of 52 teams of antique rival wisdom workbooks with easy math, spelling and reading practice. And, if you'd like to get paid for sharing our wearable wisdoms, keep this in mind. Everyone I know wears a shirt, and most of us change them daily, so change your shirt and change the world. Social equalities are blatantly subliminal antique positive wisdoms repetitively shared without saying a word. This applies to all our wearable shareable wisdoms. Like pretty witty baby onesies and baby tees that you and others will see and read multiple times a day. The same is true with pretty witty kids, but they'll also share these wisdoms with anyone that can read at daycare or school. Youthful truths let your kids gain confidence sharing antique wisdoms with their friends. Imagine them sharing words of wisdom with classmates and teachers. I think, therefore I think tees I wear is a super easy way to share words of wisdom that have passed the test of time. Our social equalities help make us all wiser and kinder with blatantly subliminal messages promoting a more fair and equal opportunity society for all. And don't forget our giftwisdoms.com for birthdays and holidays that makes it easy to share the wisdom with clothing, coffee mugs and magnets. So do the future a favor by encouraging, educating and entertaining with words of wisdom that have passed the test of time to make us all wiser and kinder. With wearable wisdoms to fit babies, kids and adults. You can clothe the whole family, city or state. Join the 52 of 8 today.